Hey everyone, welcome to another Wisdom Healing download with Akashic Records. I'm Dr. Lin Lee. I am a doctor of Chinese medicine, acupuncturist, and today I'm going to be talking about going from fear to freedom. And this is specifically around our collective personal and ancestral trauma and processing the deeper healing that needs to happen in order for us to create a better future. And so, the reason why this came to me is because many of us carry memories, we carry experiences and unprocessed emotions that sit in our body. And these aspects of us are carried in our tissues. And specifically, science and research nowadays has been speaking to this actual phenomena that happens in our body where our sensations are held in our tissues, our unprocessed emotions, our unprocessed experiences, things that we have gone through, traumatic experiences, stress is held in our body, held in our tissues and our muscles, and they sit in our tissues as energy. And as a practitioner of Chinese medicine, someone who has worked with energy medicine for the last years of my life, energy is really something to work with when we are working with something like emotions. And I want to bring it to frequency. I want to bring it to vibration because one of my mentors speaks specifically to that trauma is healed specifically and needing to be cared with a vibrational medicine. So being able to vibrationally meet somebody where they're at in their situation and having this open, present, uh, empathetic connection with them is able to heal anybody in these patterns in which we get stuck in. And because that these memories, experiences, and unprocessed emotions are sitting in ourselves, we carry them throughout our life and they end up influencing our subconscious behaviors. They end up keeping us afraid. They end up keeping us stuck, separated in relationships. We end up getting triggered easily in relationships and in friendships and intimate relationships. And we end up re almost hashing out these unprocessed emotions and experiences through our own life. And sometimes those re traumatize us, and we go through these difficult experiences that keep us in some ways stuck and stagnant in our own unprocessed emotion of maybe fear, of anger, of grief. And today we're specifically talking about fear because fear and why the ancestors and guides from the Akashic Records wanted me to talk about fear specifically in this video is because we are in this point of collectively, personally, and ancestrally transforming fear that needs to be transformed. That needs to be transformed because it sits in our bodies. Again, it sits in our tissues and it keeps us stuck. It keeps us traumatized. It keeps us afraid. And it's because we are not looking and sitting and befriending the fear. We're not allowing the fear to have a moment of transformation because we are completely avoiding it, resisting it, thinking that it's not here to serve us and not here to help us. But in fact, what I'm here to share is that there's something to learn in every single experience that we have. There is something to learn in every dark moment that we have, any dark night of the soul. That is an opportunity to learn. There's deep learning that's happening there. Of course, not discounting the intense and sometimes like isolating experiences that we could have when we are going through really tough moments in our life. Of course, that is so valid. And also, this conversation does have to speak to that because when we start to recognize that there is some patterns in our life that are contributing to our behaviors and contributing to the results of our life, that are contributing to the lessons that we're here to learn. And we start to look at layers underneath that and say, well, what is needing to be shown right now? What pattern needs to be learned and to be reworked and to be rewritten and to be reframed. And today we're speaking about befriending fear and turning fear into freedom. We're going to dive into that. I have a few questions that I wrote and I put together to ask the Akashic Records today to be of service to anyone that is in this moment of transforming fear, or in this moment of, I know that I have a lot of patterns and fears that I need to break through in order to get to that next step, or to work on that next creative project, or to just feel more free and live like the life that I desire. You deserve that. You deserve to live the life that you desire. You deserve to work on the creative projects you want to. You deserve to write that book. You deserve to help that person, to heal your family dynamic, to help other people heal their dynamics, in their relationships, in their life, in their wellness, everything. But what gets in the way oftentimes is fear. And so this video is specifically going to be a wisdom healing download from the Akashic Records to help us move from fear to freedom. And I have a list of questions. I'll weave in the medicine that I've learned in my life personally, which comes from Chinese medicine, somatic work, hypnotherapy, a lot of subconscious reprogramming, sacred embodiment work to honor the divine feminine within each one of us. And I'm going to be weaving all of that in. And if you haven't joined me here before, I want to thank you for joining me today on this video. And if you could be willing to support me, please subscribe and like this video. And I just want to thank you so much again. So let's get into it. I have a list of questions. I have 6 questions. One of them is going to be a healing. It's going to be channeling a healing from the Akashic Records to move from fear to freedom. So look for that towards the end of this episode, this end of this video. We're going to be diving deep into these next 6 questions. So the first question that I have is, what do we know about fear? And I'm going to be asking the ancestors, I'm going to be asking the spirit guides of the Akashic Records, and to be a channel for their voices to come through, because right now they have a lot to share about personal, collective, and ancestral movement, personal, collective, ancestral movement through fear. And so the ancestors and spirit guides of the Akashic Records, what do we know about fear? What do we need to know on a personal, ancestral, and collective level? Just take a breath into that, because there was a lot that I shared just now. But what's coming through is, how do we use fear? How do we navigate it? How do I transform fear and alchemize it into helpful energy for my path and my purpose, rather than something that keeps me stuck and stagnant and lost? We can transform fear into energy that motivates us. And it's all about how we begin to perceive it, how we think about it, how we reframe it. Because what I'm getting and what I'm being asked to share is that fear is always going to come up in our life. We're always going to have this hit of, whoa, there could be something in the bushes and I need to protect myself. And that fear, that initial spark of, there could be danger here, I need to put my defenses on, is something that's innately built in the body, that's innately built in our sympathetic nervous system, that is here to protect us. But what is happening now, and what many experts say, is that we get stuck in that mode of sympathetic in our own daily lives, like going to work, driving on the freeway, getting into an argument with, our friends, our relationships, our loved ones, getting on an argument on the road, like things of this sort, like get us stuck. And we have to find ways to get us back into moving that energy into other states of being and into the parasympathetic, right? It's a wave. And this is another thing that a mentor has taught me, is that our nervous system acts in a wave. Our life energy acts in a wave. And so when we get stuck in one part of the wave, right, that's not what the ocean's doing. That's not what the waves are doing. They're rolling. They're doing their wave thing. And so when we get stuck in this one mode of being, that's when stagnation happens. That's when we start to, our body begins to compensate for that in different ways, and it starts to move energy in different ways in different aspects of our body in order to some way move that energy that needs to be moved. And let me give you an example. So let's just say we do end up having like a weird confrontation on the freeway, and there's road rage involved, and it really triggers us because we feel, oh my goodness, like I could have gotten hit, my car could have gotten hit, and this person yelled at me and I yelled back, and I'm not proud of that, and I feel, there's a lot of feelings of like fear and shame and frustration, and there's a lot in that. And in that, what's happening on a physiological level is our body is being activated. Our body is being activated to be in fight mode, to be in flight mode. And what we can do in those situations, because it's super hard to like bring all of these tools in at a time where we really need it. Sometimes like when we really need it, it just kind of like disappears, because our frontal cortex, our brain, the part of our brain that actually can think and have a logical processing about what's going on and what's the next logical thing to do here, oftentimes shut off, and we get into that place of processing an experience out of fear, or truly out of emotion, truly out of survival. And so, what we need to know on a personal level is that our body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. In fact, our body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. But what we've learned on a subconscious level is that this mode of protecting myself is actually the safe place to be. This mode of protecting myself has protected me this far. So, this is the mode that I'm going to stay in. And we have to learn that there are many other ways that we can come out of that mode of sympathetic. And a lot of those ways are going to be really simple and free and easy, like talking to a friend, playing like a game, um, you know, doing something that allows you to connect with others and sharing, maybe in a way that feels supportive and healthy for you to communicate what you experienced with a friend or a colleague, something of this sort. And having a creative outlet is extremely important for this. And I've been talking about having ways that you can incorporate like art therapy or writing or some sort of energetic output for the energy that was just got sparked in your system, because it is a spark. When we do get in that incidence of, our sympathetic nervous system is sparked, I'm in fight or flight mode, we want to continue to move that spark and move it through the body instead of having it get stuck. And so what we can do is we can move it through movement. We can do it through exercise. We can do it through art therapy, writing, just having it in a place where we can unfilter, just say what we feel unfiltered, and or have like a confidant, like a friend who we can speak to, is just like, hey, I went to this thing this morning and I just want to talk about it and I want to vent about it. And there's nothing that we have to do about it. I just really appreciate having support in this moment because I'm feeling a lot of fear. I'm feeling a lot of frustration. Or you can have these ways of essentially creating your own system of navigating fear in your body. And first, it takes knowing what that feels like, knowing what that looks like in your body, because when we start to learn how fear shows up in our body, because it's going to be completely individual how it shows up in our body. It could be that in your own relationship, in your intimate relationship, you tend to get triggered by certain experiences or certain situations. So it's about, instead of maybe you having a sort of response to distance yourself, or you have a certain response to be anxious and wanting more information and just wanting more connection. It's about actually noticing that, oh, I am distancing myself in this moment. Is this something that is actually constructive to the relationship and going to help us build a stronger relationship? Or is this actually keeping me away because I am getting to a touchy place in myself that I'm not ready to own or look at yet? And so these are ways that we can start to work with our own fear and begin to befriend it. Because in that same situation of the intimate relationship and wanting to distance yourself, you're saying, there's something in me that I need to distance myself from this person because I feel a discomfort within myself and I need to protect myself. And so that is coming, that behavior of I need to protect myself is coming from a place of fear. It's rooted in fear. And so learning a personal awareness and just learning a personal understanding of yourself, like knowing yourself and seeing yourself, being able to see yourself in these situations and being able to step back and say, hey, I was kind of distancing myself there, or I reacted angrily and I criticized in the situation. And like, where does that come from? Is that coming from a place of protection? Because that's coming from a place of fear. Is that coming from a place of, wanting to not look bad or not wanting to sit with the fear or sit with the shame and the guilt? So there is something that we need to learn on a personal level, and that takes a sort of awareness or a sort of being mindful of what you're doing and having a self-reflective practice. We'll dive more into practical tips, resources, and techniques in the next question. So let's keep going. How about the ancestral and collective level? What is something we need to know now on a personal, on an ancestral and collective level? By us doing our own personal work, our own inner work, we are inherently changing the energy within our lineage. We are also changing the frequency that we emit in our own collective world, in our own communities. And so by us changing sort of this root of fear and doing somatic work or doing hypnotherapy or doing subconscious reprogramming, any things of this sort that helps to change this root, the root of, many of these behaviors, we are actually changing how we act to our community on an energetic level, on a physical level, an emotional and mental level. Because when we get to the root of why am I distancing myself, you begin to learn, well, where did that come from? What can I learn from that? Now, what do I need to do? What benefit is distancing myself? And also, how can I then heal that aspect of me that maybe has some unprocessed emotion or fear? And then by doing that, it bridges the things that we actually want. Like, for example, maybe the distancing, you're feeling like, oh, I actually want connection. And we thrive on connection, right? We heal in relationships. And so we are social animals and we need those. We need to have connection. And so that's something that we're learning on a collective level. When we do the inner work, it changes and it creates a ripple. The second question is, how do we navigate fear? And what are the practical tips, resources, and techniques that can support us? So, the ancestors and spirit guides of the Akashic Records, is there anything you want to share in regards to this? Well, what I'm getting is being able to, again, have a creative outlet, having some sort of outlet for the energy, whether it's you're a kinesthetic person and you need to move and you need to dance out the energy, or if you are a highly creative person and you have a outlet already, whether it's painting, drawing, writing, speaking, like using that as your tool to transmute that energy. If you are somebody that is more visual, like learning, seeing other people and seeing other examples of people who are transmuting their energy and transmuting their fear and doing the inner work, like seeing people do that. And you can even do this by like observing the world and people watching, right? Like kind of seeing other beings and understanding human behavior. Another way is we talked about verbally, You could even dive into speaking or channeling this into music, things of the sort. These are ways and techniques that can support us. It's about building pathways to navigate the fear. And so what does navigating the fear mean? So oftentimes when you do feel fear, it's either protecting you and it's keeping you in a place that feels more comfortable. It's safety. And we also have to learn that we heal when we feel safe, right? And so sometimes when we feel fear, it's trying to bring us back to our homeostatic place of where we feel safe and comfortable. And when we get to a point of saying, well, there's a point of me, there's something in me that I desire to create in my life, and that desires me to rise above the fear. For example, if you go to this for example, if someone wants to create a book and they launch the book and they have to go and do a book signing, right? But then they have this fear of being seen and being doing public speaking. It's like you have to learn that that fear is there because it's there to protect you and it's there to keep you in a baseline. But when you are a growing person and when you want to like rise and you want to do more and make more impact in the world, you have to actually rise above that fear. And that fear in some ways keeps you stuck because and if you're not allowing befriending that fear and seeing the fear for what it is and the lesson that it has to teach you, because if you did actually sit with that fear, you would actually learn that, okay, I am feeling this fear, but it's not going to get in the way of what I want to do. I'm feeling this fear, and it's not going to prevent me from having a difficult conversation with my relationships. I feel this fear, but it's not going to prevent me from creating the family and the dynamic that I truly believe in. And so the fear is a way to protect us and a way to keep us stuck and a really good motivator at the same time, right? When we can start to reframe it and say that instead of thinking that fear is to keep us stuck, it's actually something to note that, oh, whoa, I need to walk through this gate right now. Like I need to walk through this door. And that's going to take me to a next level. And that's really important to think about when we are navigating fear. The third question is, what benefit do is there when we move from fear to freedom? And what is freedom like? What do we mean by freedom and what will people experience? And so when we talk about fear to freedom, we have to reframe it because this is about tapping into things that is going to contribute to your life, is making you a more desired version of yourself, is making you more confident, is making you more loved. It's healing your family dynamic and your relationships. It's it's creating a family that is much different from the patterns that you were raised with. It's this deeper ancestral healing that gets passed on further and further. This is the freedom, this is the liberation that we're talking about. And the fear that keeps us stuck is these roles, these ways of being, these patterns that tell us we have to be this way because if we're not, then people won't like us. We have to be this way, or I have to do this thing because that's what I've been told. Or I have to go do this path and forget about my dream. And there's a lot that moving from fear to freedom can give us. But the main benefit is that we can learn from fear. We can use it as a teacher. That's its main benefit. And at the same time, it protects us. When there is something in the bushes, we want to make sure that we're safe. And at the same time, we can use it as a teacher. Like, wow, I felt that major response that my body had. Maybe my heart was, my heart rate went up. I started getting sweaty. my arms were sweaty, my armpits were sweaty. I was just feeling this whole rush of like my adrenaline, my sympathetic nervous system activating in my body, because in some ways it reminded me of a experience that I had long ago. Again, there's a process experience and process emotions there, and there is something deeper in that for me to learn. So what can I learn? How can I learn from that? That's where the deeper freedom and the liberation can come from, when we go through experiences that might have been very similar to something that we experienced in the past, but we no longer have this nervous system, this whole body stress reaction to something that reminded us of something in the past. But instead, we can say, hey, I see that. And wow, look how far I've come. And look at what I'm doing now and how I'm helping people navigate that fear. And so, fear, moving from fear to freedom, fear is a great teacher and freedom is a great teacher, because freedom is also teaching us, well, what do I desire? Who really am I? What am I here to commit to? And so we're going to dive into the next question. Can we learn the pathways of fear and how it sits in the body and what it does in the body? We've been sort of sprinkling this in throughout this whole video. But the main thing that wants to come through here is that fear does have pathways. In fact, fear is an integral part of the human experience and the human emotion. And so because we have a nervous system, we do have this fear response. And so there's no way it's not beneficial to look at fear as an enemy or resist fear, because that just brings in more fear, right? Rather, we can say that fear is a relationship that we have. We have relationship to fear. And in fact, fear is a friend, it's a teacher. And also at the same time, my dreams and what the life I desire and the confidence that I have and that I want to have, and the person I want to be, that is also a great teacher. And that is who I want to befriend, who I want to sit next to me. And at the same time, I will hold the hands of fear and say, okay, I know you exist. I know you are innate in my body. I know you're here to protect me, and you've protected my ancestors. And I thank you for that. I am grateful for that. And I honor you, and that you are energy that I'm here to transmute and transmit and transform into something that I can use to fuel my dreams and my goals and my desired life. And so I'm going to dive into the last question that we have, and then we're going to do the healing around fear. How does this relate to ancestry? And how does this relate to ancestral lineage, and personally in relationships as well? That wanted to come through. But the first thing that comes through right now is there's something really important about healing the ancestral lineage right now. Something that came through, I was watching the movie Dune, and something that the quote that kept coming up was like, we will not create a better future unless we are able to see the past clearly. To see the past clearly allows us to see the present clearly. And when we see the present clearly, that helps us to create a better future. Because we learn from the past, we're here present in the future, and we can see clearly what happened in the past, what didn't work, what did work, what fear is, what fear isn't, what our dreams are, what our dreams aren't. And we're able to use that and listen, right? Listening. There's a deep listening here as well that needs to be learned. Like there's a deeper listening, learning how to empathically communicate with others and ourselves, because that is something that our ancestors inherently did with each other, was just deeply listen and be present with each other. And that actually helped them inherently work with their fear and work with emotions and work with grief, and help them work with through a lot of like intense experiences. Because when you read back into history, like there's so many intense experiences, so much war and so much tragedy, and so much that happened in our history as humans. And like what really helped them during these moments was like connecting to each other and connecting and writing and having a creative outlet and like transmuting this energy of fear and anger, like these emotions, became energy and fuel to create relationship and art and all of these things. And so when we talk about how this relates to our ancestry, there's deep healing that needs to be done here, because we are here to transmute this fear in order to have better health and better relationships and live our life purpose, because our ancestors before us maybe didn't have that opportunity, didn't have those privileges. And it is here right now for us to become clear that of this exact thing, that in the past our ancestors maybe didn't have the tools, they didn't have, maybe there was something going on, and there's this collective energy of unprocessed emotion and experiences that maybe they didn't have the right support in those times to help to process and to navigate and to learn from the lessons there. And those became passed on into us to learn those lessons, to learn those gifts, those to learn the lessons, so we can then continue to pass it on into our own lineage, into our own work, and to heal our relationships. And so I'm feeling like this is coming to a close. And I want to just thank you so much for receiving this information, receiving the wisdom healing download from the Akashic Records through me, Dr. Lynn Love. And I'm going to be doing a short healing the ancestral fear meditation. So I want you to just take a moment, take a deep breath into all the things that were shared, coming back into presence. Wherever you are right now, if you're walking, if you're driving, if you are sitting in a chair, if you are outside, just begin to feel your connection to the earth beneath you. The earth carries the imprint of our ancestors. The earth and all the elements carry the imprint of our ancestors. And we can transform this fear into love, into purpose, into following our dreams, into fearlessness, into confidence. I want you to just take a deep breath and release. Another one, deep breath. And release. Take another deep breath. And release. I want you to begin to just relax your body. Begin to relax just the very top of your head, focusing your energy, your attention to just the top of your head. Just begin just like the rain pours down on you. Allow these raindrops, imagine just raindrops pouring down on you, pouring down on the top of your head, going down your forehead, down your ears, your skull, your eyes, your nose, your neck, shoulders, feeling the touch from the rain. Maybe it's cold, maybe it's moist. Just feeling the rain move down your body, down your shoulders, your arms, into your hands. Just relaxing, melting anything, washing anything off that feels stagnant, that's holding stress. Seeing this rain move down your body, your torso, your chest, your abdomen, your back, your low back, down your hips, past your womb, your legs, your lower legs, into your feet, into the toes, and down into the floor. Just taking a moment to take another deep breath and release fully, like one big wash of water, like a waterfall. Release that energy, release anything that is stuck, stagnant in the body. Taking a couple moments here to just feel your body relaxed. Taking another couple breaths. I want you to imagine standing with an ancestor. And it can be anybody. It can be a parent, it can be grandfather, grandmother, an aunt, an uncle. Standing with an ancestor. Just noticing where you are in relationship to them and just noticing what they are doing. Maybe they're showing you something. Maybe they're talking to you. Maybe they're guiding you, showing you the way. And just feeling your feet on the floor, meeting them, walking towards them. And just feel where you are in this time and space. Feel if there's wind, if it's warm, if it's cold. Maybe you're inside. Maybe you're outside. Just seeing yourself walking towards an ancestor, somebody that has the highest intention for you and the highest intention for everybody. Someone who inspires you. Someone who maybe is fearless. Someone who lives from their heart. And I want you now to sit down with this ancestor, sit side by side, and I want you to just share something that you deeply fear. And it doesn't have to be something super deep. It could be, I was asked to speak in front of a group, or I was asked to be visible. Some sort of fear that you have and that you're aware of. And just share this with your ancestor. Allow them to hear you. Allow them to hold this deep space for you to share something that you are afraid of. Allow them to walk you through. Maybe they're asking you why. Maybe they're telling you actually a deep place and experience. Maybe that reminds them of their own fear that they used to have. Allow them to walk you through and guide you and coach you through this fear. Receiving any messages that really resonate, that really are connected to your purpose, connected to your why, connected to your desired self, your confidence. And I want you to ask this ancestor, is there anything specific that you want me to know right now? Just receiving that information, that wisdom. Now from here, I want you to give thanks to this ancestor and remember that they're always here for you whenever you need their support. You can call on them. Just having the intention, simply thinking about them is enough. Now, the last thing before you say bye, this ancestor has something to give you, some sort of item or object. Allow them to give it to you. Just noticing what that is. Saying thank you. Taking that item, putting it in your pocket, and coming back when you're ready. I want to thank you for being open, for being here with me. And if you got into this part, I want you to take this meditation and go to your creative outlet. I recommend writing, journaling, because it's been a powerful practice for me. But taking that and just writing for the next 5 minutes about what that was like for you and what insights you got and what that object was. Because what we are receiving from spirit, from our guidance, is incredibly powerful and incredibly supportive to our life. And so we have so much to give. We're capable of so much. And we are loved. And may we trust in that, in our relations. And I want to give thanks for you for joining me here on this wisdom healing download. and I'll catch you in the next one.